folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the wild landscape of Scotland. And today we've come to the little village of Alford here in Aberdeenshire. Is this Aberdeenshire we're in? Today we're joined by AKR and some family and friends here on the video featuring today, folks. And we're heading up to it's the Heritage Centre here at Alford. And it'll be an interesting little bit of history for the video, something different, and it's a cool wee adventure. And as you can see, the house is up here in Aberdeenshire, made of the grey granite here. Shout out Tom's brother if he watches this video, folks. Wow, look at this, we're out on the main street, folks, and the stormy weather's just come on, typical for a BKR video here. The wind is blowing and the rain is on and it's super cold. It's only like 4 degrees right here. And the Heritage Centre's down this direction. Just look at this scene here, folks. This is a Scottish high street in the village, and look, this clothes and stuff's just a bit blown away in the wind. It's an extreme scene out here. We're just here to hope the Heritage Centre's got a roof. Check this out, folks. We've made it to the Heritage. What's it called? The Heritage Centre? The Heritage Museum here, folks. And look at this, the working water wheel. 1845, and just check it out. It's an overshoot waterfall here. And this is a working version of some of the water wheels like what we see at the farms and stuff up on the wild hills and the wild glens. Anyway, let's head on inside, folks, because the weather's extreme. And this is the front entrance here to the museum, so let's head on in. Look at this old classic jukebox here. Insane, folks. Look at this, folks. This is set up like an old shop here. Look at this. All the old stuff that you would find in an old shop. Look at the old biscuit tins and stuff. Similar to kind of the stuff that we find in some of the old houses that I explore abandoned. This gives you an idea of the stuff in the houses. Look at that, folks, the old players box. The old cigarette box, folks, check it out. Look at this, folks, the old mangle for rolling out the water once you did your washing. Look at the old washing soaps and stuff. The old dash container right there. Oh hey, look at this old dispenser here. This is what would have been in like the pubs and stuff like that. For getting the packet of cigs out here. This is the Charles Murray room. Look at these old pianos and musical instruments here, folks. The old organ. What's this place here like? Oh, the tailor and the outfitter. This place is set up like little shops, folks, so you get an idea of how it would have been back in the day. This is what like the tailor would have looked like inside. There's an ex-army tunic, look at that. I love seeing these the old packaging and stuff like that from back in the day. And this is the kind of tweed and stuff like this they would be working way back in the day. Look at the old scissors. Wow, folks, cool little details. I'm just heading into each of these little rooms. This is for local like prizes, like hoeing matches. Can you even believe that? They used to actually have hoeing matches, folks. Look at this, folks. This is interesting. This is a slate window frame from a thatched house at Black Bulk, Kildrummy Estate. And it shows the skill and the craftsmanship there to carve a hole into a slate like that. And look at the wee wooden wheelbarrow. So this is interesting, a lot of like farming trophies and things like that. It's interesting to see the farming heritage in an area like this. Look at this, here's some stuff like to do with the royal family. Check this out here, folks. This is the old schoolroom. This is how a Scottish schoolroom would have looked back at the time. Just imagine the teacher sitting up there. Back in the day, they had the leather whip, so if you misbehaved, they used to get this leather whip here and they would actually give you a good scalping with it to make you learn your lesson, really. And you can just imagine the teacher looking out over the classroom back in the day. Wow, what an interesting room. Look, back in the day they used to write on slate as well with a piece of chalk. I think these desks are from the time they would have written with ink as well in that little pot there. It's amazing how stuff like this has changed over the years. And look at this, the old map here of the world. Old World Atlas. See, look, back at that time it was still the Union of South Africa back down there. The British Union. So that shows how old like this map is. Probably a lot of these places, the names have changed on them. And look, the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics. That's also changed nowadays, obviously. Back at that time, Ukraine and everything was part of Russia. And I love seeing those old maps. It's almost like a time capsule. All the different countries, how they always change. Look at this. Here's a map of Ireland of all things here. And then interesting little school books. There is a bit of a reflection here off the glass. And I must say, if anybody's in the Alford area, it's definitely worth coming here for a visit. There's so much interesting little details and little nuggets of history from all walks of life. And I think I'll head in here. Look, here's an old kitchen. Look, this is what an old house would have been like. Just like some of those houses that I visit which are abandoned. You can see how the wooden lining is on the wall, even in this building. And that's how it was in Scotland for the insulation. Buildings were often wood lined. And I love this. This is like an original fireplace right here with a chimney. And look, this is the metal bar here they would hang the pots on. And you can see the different type of pots that they had. And I often speak about this system on my videos, so it's cool to see one still in situ. Look at the old clock. Yeah, it's just quite interesting in these places. Look at this. See, when I was at the old abandoned hunting lodge hidden up in the hills, there was actually a paraffin stove like this in the shed round the back. And that's what this is, an old paraffin cooker. 1930s paraffin stove, it says on the ticket. And then different cookers from different eras. These Rayburn stoves here were a popular thing in Scotland in the kitchen. Anyway, let's head on round. I'm just kind of making my way around. There's some more buildings here that I didn't actually see yet. Some more little rooms. Look at this, folks. This is the cobbler and the shoe polisher. And look at this machine here that would have been used to polish the shoes with all the different grades of polishing wheel. And then the different polishes. Back in the days of this would have been a popular machine used a lot. Whereas modern shoes, you didn't really go around polishing them as much. It's more of a throwaway culture now with stuff like that. Instead of them caring for the shoes and looking after them. Look at these things for punching the holes in the leather. And look at this here, all the different tools and little systems. Even the old book. 1917 that must have been. That gives you an idea, folks. 1917, stuff like this would have been in its prime. Now look at that, 1928 calendar. The Aberdeen Press and Journal, folks. Alford is a village quite near Aberdeen. And it's just a beautiful piece of land here in Scotland. And when you find like historical places like this, it tells the story of the local history. It's so interesting to go around and record it, document it. This is like models of like local farm items, little wooden models and stuff. Check this out, folks. This is all the historical items here out of an ROC bunker. And you know, on this channel we love exploring ROC bunkers and the history of the Cold War bunkers used to defend the country. And look in here, this is actually the items out of the bunker. That's the gauge there which measured the barometric pressure, and there was a pipe came down through the ground, and when the bomb went off that needle would go up to the pressure and then they could record the pressure. But also they were monitoring the nuclear fallout as well as the size of the explosion, but also like weather conditions around as well to try and understand where the radiation would go. All these bunkers were linked together and then also connected to a master post, and then the master post was connected to a main Cold War like rotor bunker.
That's the fixed survey meter, look. So
Oh, look at this,
so
folks.
that's the thing that went on one of the
The old fixed survey meter, that went at the top.
It went on to one of the fittings, didn't it?
That's one of the
And
measuring devices right there. Look, that measures the radiation, doesn't it?
Mm.
Look, there's a poor shadow. I need to get a torch on here. Look at this, folks. There's the apparatus. The fixed survey meter. It's so cool to see that, because often with the bunkers I go, all that stuff's gone.
Did that go on to the where the metal plate normally is on them with the 4 bolts?
This one used to go up the pipe from below. There was a pipe. Look at this, folks. This is the ROC uniform that they would have worn. And you can see how it looked. You can imagine the people down in the ROC bunker wearing these uniforms. Number 29. See, look, this must have been like a sergeant kind of guy with 3 stripes. So they must have had different... What's the word? So they must have had different ranks in the ROC, just like standard military. And look at this wee generator. This was probably used in the ROC bunker as well at times. Maybe if their main electric supply got put out by like an electromagnetic pulse. Here's another interesting detail. Look, there's the chemical toilet down in there. And we have actually seen them in bunkers in situ. And then look, there's the original sign, which I have found in some of the bunkers as well. Yeah, it's interesting just to see all the stuff that they had, the telecoms. And then there was a third instrument to measure that was at the top of the ladder. It was like a cylinder shape with a bit of paper inside it. But I'm not seeing that here.
Is that the thing that's on the top?
Oh, that'll be it there. Yeah, look at that, folks. And then there's little holes in it. And the bright flash used to go through the hole and burn onto the paper. And that told them the height of the blast. And often the distance as well. Because it would be on like a graph on the paper. Look at this here as well. The old communications devices like the phone. And then this item here. Look at that, this is like something for creating power, look. Or maybe Morse code. And then look at this giant compass. Came from a crashed plane in the Cairngorms.
Was it a master post that had a radio?
Wow.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the master post used to have a separate aerial inside of it. Look, there's actually like metal detectors. This must be some other maybe items from the military scene here. Yeah, because look at this here as well, folks. Here's some interesting little nuggets of history in this case. Is that not an old signal light in there?
Yeah.
There's actually a reflection off the glass, and I do apologise for that, folks. Look at this old record player here. Oh, look under here. All these old radio... Oh, look, that's got like an oscilloscope.
It does, yeah.
So that's maybe for picking up on the radar, like the chain home used to hear a system like this. And in here you would see the pulse of the plane. And the British planes were fitted with a secondary system to supply another pulse. And that way, on here, you could tell if it was a friendly plane coming in or a German plane. And this is a similar thing down here, look. This must have an oscillation graph on it.
They are basically oscilloscopes of
Yeah,
early
wow.
farm.
I love seeing stuff like that. Look at that, there's a receiver, look.
That's more like the kind of one that might have been in an aircraft.
Oh, aye.
It does have Air Ministry on it, look, AM
Oh,
with
aye.
the sound.
So that's like some aircraft equipment. And then look at this unit.
That's a radio as well.
Oh, that's incredible. I love seeing the technology and the old historical items like this. Look at that. Oh, that's a radiation detector.
Oh, aye, like a Geiger counter.
Yeah, so that was maybe used by the people in the ROC.
It must be an early one.
Yeah, airborne radar equipment, look.
Oh, aye.
Yeah, look at that in there too. It's kind of hidden away, but it's an old radio. And then this thing here, look at that, that's another oscillation kind of like scope.
Yeah.
And I just love the way they made things back in the day with the metal and the Bakelite knobs on it. And look at these things. Insulated food container, folks. This military history is incredible. Look at this, look. The boy's address is still on there. He was a smith. And this must have been what they kept their stuff in when they were at war. Must have been their container.
The air raid siren.
Yeah, folks, look at this, the old air raid siren. We're dying to get it going, but we didn't really want to spin it fully up in here.
That would be, you would hear it after in the village.
Yeah, and then look at this, folks. Look at the old gas masks from the war up here. Wow, look at that suit, Andy.
Oh, aye. Easy peeps, that's like a proper...
So yeah, folks, we were just looking at the ROC history, and the 3 items is up there. You can see the silver bit, which was like a little metal plate above the pressure gauge. But we were just looking and realising the fixed survey meter in that box must have mounted inside that blue cone-looking piece of apparatus. So you can imagine on the surface, that's the 3 things you would have seen up there. So interesting. It is really interesting, folks. I just love the military history and just what went on. Look, there's another one of these gas masks up there. So cool. Anyway, let's head on with this adventure, folks. See what other historical wonders of Scotland here is on display. Some amount of bottles in there as well. That used to be drugs that was in the blue ones, eh? I feel like the chemist and things.
These are all kind of chemist bottles, I think.
Oh, aye. Unfortunately, with the glass, there's a bit of a shadow on there.
I think the colour denoted how poisonous.
Look, a blood circulator.
Oh.
Look, there's one of those things, look, for nervous diseases.
electric
You
shock.
put the pads on and then you give yourself a shock.
Yeah.
That's like on The Secret Garden, the boy gets that, eh? Interesting, this is all like little, what you would get maybe at a doctor's or a chemist's. Check out this old washing machine, folks. A wooden lid, you put the clothes in, then you spin this handle round and round and round. Then once you're finished, you wring the clothes out in this old mangle here, squeezes the water out. And this would have been the state of the art washing machine at a certain time. Look at this, folks, we've got a display of vintage tractor models here. Universal hobbies. And look, there's even some model like engines and stuff in here. It's kind of hard to see with the reflection on the glass unless I go right up against it. Check this out, folks, they've got a whole model railway set up here and it's kind of like vintage cars and stuff on the road, which is quite interesting to see. Oh, look, here comes the train, folks, look at this. Look at that, little Hornby railway set right there. And then look, it goes away through the tunnel. And then look, even in the field, we've got a little Fords and Dexter down there working away. So some setup. Oh, aye. Check it out, eh? That's a real train set. You would need a whole room in your house for that. Check this out, folks. This is all cameras and stuff like this. Back in the day, before the days of YouTube, unfortunately there's a reflection off the glass.
They're the oldest ones at the bottom.
Oh, look at these ones, folks. The wooden cameras right there. That's some of the most interesting ones. Sometimes you would hate to stand a wee minute for it to actually capture the photograph. Wow, look at that old Hitachi down at the bottom there. That old video camera. That's the sort of thing folk were taking on holiday with them, thinking it was compact. And look at this down here. This is actually one of those things for viewing the footage. What do you call it again? A cine player.
Yeah, projector.
A projector, folks, for playing the old films. Wow, such an interesting mixture of stuff in here. It's just blowing my mind. And then look at this, the old radio and household stereo equipment. Just check this out. This reminds me of some 1970s vibe. Think what bangers must have been played on this over the years. Just imagine the folk vibing out to this old stereo back, maybe in like the 40s.
All the videos
The times of war.
They all had their own unique shape.
Yeah, they're all wooden, but they're all so. Look at this like Art Deco style radio right here, folks. There was maybe a radio like that at one time in like some of those houses that I visit, the Art Deco style ones. Look at that as well there, pretty cool. Interesting, folks. Interesting history. Look at this, the old washing machines and stuff. Look at this old stove. Wow. And then look at this sort of thing here. This is another one of these wash machines. I'll put the torch on again for the shadow here. Just prevents there being such a shadow on the footage right there, folks. Look at the old English Electric. That's the same folk that made the aeroplanes, eh?
It maybe is, Brian, you're probably right.
They used to make the English Electric Lightning, which was one of my favourite planes ever invented.
You see the islands at the top as well.
Look, washing machines, first recorded in 1677. Early patent taken out in 1780. So that shows how long ago they were actually starting to think about washing machines and patenting ideas for them. And then look at this, you put the hot coals and stuff in there,
This one's gas.
Oh,
so
is
you
it?
would literally connect that to your household gas supply and, and light it on fire inside.
That was different days back at that time, folks. For ironing the clothes.
And that's the kind that you heated the block in the fire.
Oh,
and then you put the block inside.
Uh-huh.
Once it was hot.
Wow, it's changed days now. You just plug in and away you go. Look, here's some of the first electric irons. And then look at this. This is the old wash sink for getting the washing done, eh? You see this in some like farmhouses. The old mangles that connected. In some farms I've been at, they've actually got a metal bit on the end of the sink, and that was for this connecting on. You do see that quite a lot. Wow, all the different mangles, eh?
This is a great big one.
Look at this, folks, the old bottles. Look at the old ginger beer bottle right there. Aberdeen ginger beer. Just think how tasty that ginger beer must be. Locally made. Look at the old Hayes of Elgin lemonade bottle. Hayes is now obviously a big time company originating in that area. Aberdeen, Inverurie and Elgin. These bottles here are even older. Yeah, I love seeing the way the old bottle caps and stuff are. It's the sort of thing we used to dig that up in our garden when we were little. You would find where it had been dumped like years and years before. And then look at this. This is kind of like where they would deal with like milk. This is like milk churns, or is it a butter churn? Pretty sure you use a thing like this to make butter. Did we not used to hear a thing like that lying about back in the day, AKR?
I think it's still at your house somewhere.
Yeah, we're sure it is somewhere, like old vintage equipment lying about, folks. Yeah, this is all for the manufacture of like milk, cheese, butter. And most farms would have had machines and apparatus like this, because a lot of farms back at that time were independent manufacturers of their own products. And it's interesting to see that and share that history as well. Look at that old Stranraer Wigtownshire Creamery Company rich preserved cream. And I love seeing those little ceramic dishes. Such a different world back at that time. Just look at all this, it's just mad to see the different machines and the different operation of things. Look, there's a Lister ball bearing cream separator. That was most likely all the rage back at that time. The latest bit of technology. And you can see it's powered from an electric motor there. Wow. Even this building we're within though, it's quite a historic building. The old mart for the cows, for the beasts. You can just imagine the hustle and bustle back at that time when a place like this was full of the animals. This is the room here you would have come in and the auctioneer would be kicking off. The animals would be getting walked around this section and all the farmers would be sitting up in this area here. And you can just imagine the auctioneer standing up there. Can you do a good auctioneer impression, AKR? I really can't do it.
You'd have to stand up at the wee office there.
Yeah, look at these old glass jar things here. Massive. Yeah, there's just some interesting little knick-knacks and bric-a-brac just lying all around. Look, there's those wee round glasses like IKS wears.
Yeah.
Check this out, folks. This is the view that the old auctioneer used to get in this place. And you can just imagine him looking around at all the farmers, trying to get the bargain, the best animal for the best price. Going against each other and competing. But also often selling each other animals year on year. And it's just crazy to see it nowadays. Like, one day this place was just obsolete, no longer used. It went from being a wild area full of cows and animals and hustle and bustle to being the peaceful museum that it is today. And it is super kind of stormy outside. I hear the wind blowing. See, there's an old paraffin heater sitting up at the back there on the back shelf.
Oh, aye. There's one different ones, different kinds.
Yeah, oh yeah, all the way along. Paraffin cookers and lanterns and look, old, what's those things for heating up the bed?
Yeah, hot water bottles.
Hot water bottles, they're old vintage ceramic ones. So interesting here, once again, folks. Look at this. Here's a poultry incubator here, folks. Look, you must start a wee fire kind of in there and that heats it up. And then within here you would have the eggs hatching out. That's a mad little bit of vintage equipment right there. That'll be a similar thing right there. And then look at this thing for the eggs.
Is that for cleaning them, I think?
Oh aye, it cleans them. Aye,
Brushes inside it?
look at that, it's got wee brushes, folks. And you spin the egg round and round, it cleans it and then puts it out into the wee tray. And that's the kind of thing that has been going on at Fairman for years. Look at this, it's an optical chick sexing kit here, folks. That's what I mean, there's such a variation of history on here. That literally, that's for telling if your chicken is a male or a female. Mad. Who even knew that sort of system existed? Look at this, folks. This display shows you how the old barn mill used to work inside. Look, it's got a concave inside it, similar to like a modern combine. So when the barley crop gets put in, probably from the top on this one here, it gets fed in round this concave, and as this spins here, it grinds between and knocks the barley and grain off, which then lands here on this sieve, which is moving as well. All four of these are moving like that constantly, and then that kind of basically just sieves the seed down, right down through the system, till eventually it comes out and gets put in a bag. And this is like a miniature model, which is
a fan to blow the loose chaff off and out the back.
The fan blows the loose chaff, folks. It separates the wheat from the chaff.
Just like a combine. Alright.
What was that?
You said the tractors and everything are through that blue door.
Oh, is it tractor?
Yeah.
Check this out, folks. This is now the kind of more farming end of the museum here, with some interesting tractors and farming related objects. Just check this out. Look at this thing here, folks. I love the machinery and the mechanisms they used to use for farming. See this, folks? We found one of these recently at an abandoned farm up Glenesk, and it's actually called a fanner, and it was used to separate all the little bits of chaff and stuff from the wheat and to clean the grain. And you used to have to turn this handle here, I think, to get it going. Would these have ever been powered though for like a water wheel or something? No.
Only if somebody converted them and put a motor on them.
Oh, aye.
Aye.
Look at this old horse cart here, folks. Check out the size of these big wooden wheels. It's mad. Oh look, the wheel's actually cracking. That would have been a main farm trailer back at the day, getting pulled around for a horse. It's just mad to see. Look at this. We'll go through this little side bit here before we go into that main area. Look at this. This is how the farmer would have lived. A lot of the time in the farm bothy, they just had a wee bed like that. And look at the boots. This is what I was saying in one of my videos recently. They had tackety boots with the metal pins in the sole, and when they wore, they just took them out and chopped new ones in. And that's how some of those doorsteps on the old houses and farms are super worn. It's from the metal of the boot soles grinding on them every time the people walk out and in. And look at this. This has been like animal stalls, or it's set up like animal stalls. This is where they would have maybe had the horse. I just walked through a spider web there, folks. Yeah, look at the old horse leathers. Different things maybe for attaching implements onto horses. And then look at the horse's shoes right there. Real deal leather, folks. And then right the way along here, it's all like horse related apparatus, I believe. Look at this. Is this not a thing for clipping the sheep?
For shearing.
Aye, shearing sheep. A little engine powered thing. It looks like a wee Suffolk engine, I would say. So that's probably, what would it be, 1960s, 70s. And look at this one. It's a hand cranked sheep shearer. Look at that, the little gear drive and stuff. Like the way they used to make things back in the day. I think I need the torch on just to highlight details like that there. Look at that. Wow. And then check this out. We've actually had some of this equipment over the years. That looks to me like an Atco lawnmower right there. And that's a Jap engine that's on that, isn't it?
No, a Villiers engine.
A Villiers engine.
Yeah.
And then this is an Allen scythe here, which also had a Villiers engine.
Yeah.
Which was a popular engine back in the day. And then this here, I don't know what make this one is. Is that a Villiers engine as well?
Yeah.
All this is Villiers engines, folks. Yeah, this is like a little rotavator or whatever. Then that's like a mower which has got like the big blade at the front. And then that there's a lawnmower obviously for more tidy, well kept grass. Just check it out, there's loads of mowers here. This is another Atco. This time with what looks like a Suffolk engine on it. Yeah, wow, look at this high hedge cutter item here. It's a Teagle. So they still actually make machinery now, to this day. Teagle.
It looks so unsafe with the open belt and everything.
Yeah, imagine that when you're cutting the hedge or whatever, that's spinning right around with the belt right next to your coat.
The chain that goes through the pipe for driving the
Oh,
end.
so it does, folks, look at that. The chain here leads right up the whole length for turning the
It
end.
didn't wear through when you were using it.
Wow, it must have gotten hot. It must have been noisy. Look, Aberdeen, Harper & Co, that roller. So it's cool to see that local history. Look, there's one of those wee trailers that went on the back of the mower.
Yeah.
So you could sit down and pull yourself along as you cut the grass.
Yeah, it's a merry tiller.
Oh, we used to have a merry tiller when we were little. We made it into a little tractor. Look at that thing there, a Titan. And then check this out, the Shanks lawnmower, eh? We used to hear a couple of Shanks lawnmowers
They
when
were
we were
made out
young.
of growth.
Were they? Made in Arbroath, Scotland, folks. Yeah, this is crazy. This video is just basically little nuggets here at this museum, and it's just mad the amount of things we've seen. It's cool just to see all this sort of stuff in one place.
Well, is that dumbbells?
Often when you visit a house or an abandoned place in the future, you can often reference back to a time like this and you realise what each thing was or what it was doing. Sometimes when I'm exploring as well, I just find a small piece of like some of this implements lying in the earth. It's cool to see often how the whole thing would look. The reason a lot of this stuff disappears is because the majority of it's made of wood, and then there's just some like tiny little metal pieces that end up left. And in the end they even rot away.
That's a proper Barton threshing mill.
Oh aye, look at that folks, the threshing mill at the back here.
That's the kind that would have been in some of those water powered steadings you visit.
Yeah, look, here's the old weighing scale for weighing the bag of grain after it comes off.
This is a big scales, look at this one.
Yeah. And then look at that thing there as well. That's almost like one of those fanner things as well for clearing the clearing the stir out of the grain. Yeah, see that's another one of those little mills which was a fanner.
Yeah.
And I have seen one of those recently at a Glenesk farm, which is interesting. Wow. Yeah, look at the old scales, folks. It's just so interesting. Super cool. Yeah, there's so many of these local farms must have donated them rather than throwing them away. Would this be something for drying grain potentially?
Well, no, it's something to be powder, look.
Oh, aye.
Not with powder, look here. Because look, it's got...
Yeah, do not ram down, keep powder dry.
Kills worms and farm animals, and is it something
Oh,
to
aye. Look at this folks, this old mill here is pedal driven. You would literally sit on this little chair and then pump your feet up and down on these pedals. And then that would turn this mill. And then you must have just had to kind of like feed the stuff in this slot. It's just mad to see the technology and how it's come along. Just think, you'd hate to sit all day long turning that manually. And it probably got quite chick to turn once you were putting in a heavy load. Look at this folks, we're now back out in the main tractor room here and check it out. They've got the back end of an old Fergie here opened up. Must have come out of the train centre so they could see how things worked and how things were. Check this out too, the old Fordsons, the old Dexter, a Super Dexter, and then a Super Major. This is slightly newer than the Fordson Power Major that I take to the shows. Once the Super Major came out, it had different design with like draft control and all the latest features on it. And look at this old saw bench here, powered from what looks like a twin Petter engine right there. Petrol paraffin. And look at this, it's a Davy Brown Crop Master tractor. Look at this, Crathis garage, small miniature little steam engine. And then here we've got a Fordson N. I believe that this Fordson N is after the war. I think they were painted blue. Here's another Fordson N. Once again, petrol paraffin. They used to start on petrol, run on paraffin, and then you would switch it back to petrol before you switched it off. Because paraffin was so much cheaper than petrol, that was what they did. But obviously you couldn't start the engine on paraffin because it didn't combust correctly until the engine was hot. That's the reason you had to switch it from petrol to paraffin and vice versa. Look, this is actually called an Alford tractor. It was built to look like a field marshal. The bonnet's made from an old gas cylinder, 3 forward gears in the reverse, a hand clutch, and it started with the hand crank. And it's on loan for somebody for a Boyne, so it's cool to see it here at the museum. And this is a 1952 Fergie. See, I've just noticed the years is on here. I was saying these are after the war. Let's see if I was accurate.
I've seen old things like that.
Oh, built in 1936, but believed not to be sold until the early 40s. And look, this is at 1946, belonged to John Brodie. Shout out John Brodie, folks. He's fae Dunecht. This is your tractor featuring on the video. And look at this one here. I'm sure my granddad actually had a John Deere like this in the wood at a certain time in the forestry business. That must have been a big tractor back in the day. 1978 this one was. I think it says there anyway. Oh no, sorry, that's wrong. This tractor here is first registered in 1968 in Dundee. Wow, I do love seeing the old John Deeres like that. It's a John Deere 710. And shout out all the American viewers. The John Deere's a popular tractor in America and globally, of course.
That's like, again, that's like somebody's made, because it's made from
Here's another farm mill right here.
it's like a homemade sort of replica.
Now look at the old horse carriage up here, folks. Look, there's the people actually in the horse carriage. And this is it here. Just think about that, the mad history that we're witnessing here today. All this different historical eras. Look at the old skis under there, folks. Look, a snow track. Yeah, that's one of those things for going, it's like a snowmobile almost. Look at that, it's got a Sachs engine in it. And then check this out, this is where a lot of my family heritage comes from, this scene as well, the forestry scene as well as the farming scene. And this is actually some of the coolest old saws back in the day. Look, a Dan Arm Tornado. And I'm sure my relation had one of the first one of these in Aberdeenshire back in the day, and everybody in the forestry industry from that area was coming round to see the thing working. Wow, what a monster of a chainsaw though. Look at the blade and stuff on it right there. Absolute madness. And back at that time as well, when things like this were made, there was no like health and safety or chain locks or anything like that. It was just the savageness of the engine turning the mad blade. Look at that chainsaw at the top, it's got a reciprocating blade on it there. That's mad, the saw blade moves back and forward. And that's a 1960s saw there from the USA. It's called a Wright. And I never knew that the saws like that even existed. And look at this side, stationary engines, folks. Woolsleys, Crossleys, Listers. All different makes. That's a massive twin cylinder one over there as well. Often they had these big flywheels to keep the momentum of the engine spinning. Because obviously they only fired like now and again. The big flywheels just kept them spinning, smoothed out the operation of the engine. And most of these engines will be petrol engines, won't they?
Yeah, these are diesel, these are Mr. CS's.
Oh, these diesel engines here.
This is the start-o-matic generator set.
Oh,
so this would have been the one that started automatically when somebody switched the first light on in a house.
Oh, and maybe powered like a farm or whatever.
Yeah, and then when you switch the last device off at night or whenever you're finished, it would stop itself.
Wow. Look at this, folks. This is an old McCormick International binder here, and this is what they used before the days of combines. After they finished using the scythe, they used to pull one of these with a horse, basically. And literally, it was the wheel turning on the ground that used to power the mechanisms here. And then it would stack it up in stooks, and they had to go and pile them up. And then they would bring the thrashing mill in, and then throw the stooks up and put them into the thrashing mill. And look at this is horse-drawn ploughs. They used to plough the ground with, one furrow at a time. Nowadays you get massive ploughs with like 12 furrows and stuff like that, even bigger. This is all like old grubbers and old rakes, and I often see the remnants of this on my adventures on the channel. That's why it's cool to see these items often in good condition in a place like this. They're being looked after and saved, unlike the ones I normally see that are like lying in old sheds with no roofs and stuff. The size of these handles though, imagine walking behind that all day. It's like that's been a driller for maybe making tatty drills and stuff. Oh look, it tells you there what it is. A scarifier for turnip drills. Hunter and Sons. Then a turnip lifter at that side. They must have done a lot of napes. That's what you call turnips around here in Scotland, folks. It's napes. And this is all nape equipment here. Seeders and little things like that. That's for seeding grass seed, I believe. It's called a broadcaster. Check this out, folks. This is the old blacksmith shop. This is amazing to see the old equipment here, and look at the size of that bellows there for the furnace. All the different tools that they used for making horseshoes like this. Any other farm equipment, often the blacksmith was like a key part. of the farming and the heritage of the land here in Scotland. It's cool just to see it, the big belt driven pillar drill there. A lot of that stuff would have been steam powered or whatever, or even water wheel powered back at the time. And then he's got a hand crank bellows at this side. It's just cool to see this little bits of equipment and stuff though, folks. And then look at this here, this must be for maybe the coach works, the person fixing and maintaining the horse's cart, making fancy carts and maybe putting new wheels and stuff. When the cart wheels break, they would make it on wee machines like this, the wee lathe, the little drills. And it is interesting to see, folks. Look at this old lathe here. There's a bit of a partially assembled cart wheel right there. Look at this, folks, the old Massey Harris Cedar right there. And then look at the old road signs here from Alford and Aberdeen. I love seeing the old road signs. And look at the size of this big wheel, which was likely to have come off some sort of like water wheel drive or whatever at a farm. Sometimes you find once they've done a lot of work, the gears get worn, especially at one side more than the other. Check this out, folks. This is interesting old beekeeping equipment here, and this is what you call a skep, and this is what they used as a hive before they had the more modern type of hive here, which is still kind of commonly used, a similar thing to this nowadays for the bees. And then once it was taken out of here, it was put into this, and that was where they would separate, often with centrifugal force. They spin it around to separate the pure honey from the other like crystallized comb parts. So they would use this to extract the honey from the comb, folks, and then they would put the comb back in here, and that was the reason they would get more efficiency out of it, because the bees weren't always having to create the comb with the honey and wax inside it. And then this here was actually for bottling it up, I believe. They would put the honey in here, and then it would come out this pipe at the bottom, and then they would put their jar below it like that and then fill it up. So it is interesting to see that little historical side of beekeeping at this museum as well, and the different ways of doing things, because I had no idea that a thing like this even existed before the more modern beehives. Look at this, folks. This is something that you rarely see at the roadside nowadays in Scotland, but you get them still with GR on them. But this is a classic one with VR, which was obviously the time Queen Victoria was the queen of the country here. This is what the post boxes looked like. And there is the odd rare one maybe still kicking about, but it's cool to see this one in great form.
This is a Victorian in Scotland because it's not collected on Sundays and New Year's Day.
Aye.
Well, in England it will be Sundays and Christmas Day.
Oh, right, I see what you're saying. Aye, so Scotland's different because we're New Year's, but England would be more Christmas. See, that's the kind of history that I love to document, like. Look at that, folks. Look at its eyeballs sticking out its head right there. Bit of taxidermy. So there we go, folks. We've just made it out of the Alford Heritage Museum here, and I've just bought a little special sign. You can hardly see it for the sun. That's to remind me of my trip to the museum. It's an enamel Force and Major sign, and that shows you the mechanic coming in about the farm to fix the tractor, and that's basically what I do on the modern New Holland tractors, which is the modern equivalent of this Force and Major.
And David, there's your old brother for the day.
and now we're just kind of heading away. So that's been a real interesting museum to see. It's been cool to see this water wheel as well, and overshoot. And look at this here, I didn't notice this on the way in, folks. Look, an old vintage petrol pump right here. Right, folks, that's been a fun adventure. Thanks for joining us once again on this incredible adventure into Scottish history. Today it was the Heritage Museum, and shout out to all the special guests in today's adventure. And shout out to Tom's brother, who I believe watches these episodes and enjoys these adventures as well. And it was cool to see the Heritage Centre and all the wee nuggets of history that was involved with the Scottish farming and agricultural scene and everything else that we saw. Anyway, I'm ending this one here, folks. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with the next one.